and welcome back to Indiana Women's Basketball Weekly, presented by Big Ten Plus. I'm Josie Broyles, and alongside me is Joe Cronin. The semifinal game of the Big Ten Women's Tournament against number 4 Ohio State on Saturday was one for the record books. Unfortunately, not the kind of record book the Indiana women's basketball team and their fans wanted to find themselves in. So Joe, what happened, and how can we get back on track for the NCAA tournament?
I mean, the biggest thing is rest, and this team is going to have some of that. And another thing is the Hoosiers are going to be back at Assembly Hall, and that's big. You have 2 losses in 3 games. One against Ohio State, one against Iowa. But then you're back at Assembly Hall. You can relax a little bit, have a couple games at home, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing.
I couldn't agree more. You know, they know the court. They have the motivation from the fans. I think being back in Bloomington at Assembly Hall will really put them back on their A game. With a stellar 27-3 record and Big Ten regular season championship under their belts, our Hoosiers will still maintain their predicted number 1 seed in the tournament come March 12th, when the participating teams are announced on Selection Sunday. But they are limped to the finish line, losing 2 of their last 3 in dramatic fashion. From a last-second dagger by Iowa to the historic comeback by the Buckeyes. And according to Coach Terry Morin, the limp might be indicative of some banged-up players.
I think all of them are. Mentally, I think they're tired. Physically, I know they're tired. We do have some things health-wise that we have to that this period will be really good. For a lot of different reasons, and so I think we're all looking forward to just getting a little bit of a break here before the other madness starts.
Like Coach Morin said, Holmes was not on top of her game like she usually is, especially how we saw her play in February's OSU game, where we saw the Hoosiers take home an 83-59 victory. So Joe, Mackenzie Holmes, like you know, had a season-high scoring day with 33 the last time Indiana played and won against Ohio State back in February. Besides her overall health right now, what did Ohio State do the other day to keep her bottled up this time around?
I mean, a big thing that they did defensively was they fronted Mackenzie Holmes, and that forced a different kind of physicality, and that's something that head coach Terry Morin mentioned a lot, is the fact that she was getting pushed around a lot, and it was a very physical game, 42 total fouls being called, and I think that just shows the number of Ohio State was able to adjust, and third time was true of the charm.
Mackenzie wasn't ready. They knew that she was their star player, and they knew that she was the player to look out for. She wasn't in her A game the second half of the game, and that's what we saw. All season long, this is an Indiana team that has taken so much pride in their defensive efforts, holding opponents to around 62 points per game. What were some of the causes of the defensive collapse in the second half, and the Buckeyes were able to outscore the Hoosiers in the paint of 40-26? Joe, what do you think?
I mean, Josie, the Buckeyes were able to adjust, and once again, this coaching staff did a great job of seeing the film of the previous 2 games against the Hoosiers and adapting. And they went small. They went with guard-heavy play, and one in particular, Josie Sheldon. She returned from her injury on the weekend over the Big Ten tournament, and that provided some of that speed that Ohio State was able to do. They were able to rim run pretty easily, get to the rack, and that forced Mackenzie Holmes into foul trouble, Lily Meister into foul trouble. Yarn Garzone fouled out for her 2nd straight game of the Big Ten tournament, and that just shows some of the testament of what Ohio State was able to do to adjust, adapt, and overcome some of the strengths of this juggernaut of the Hoosiers program.
Ohio State was on fire, especially with Josie Sheldon coming back from an injury and being so ready to take on the Hoosiers. That was impressive, if I do say so myself. But they were not expecting that attack on the defensive side of things. And moving on, we saw a lot of great teams play last week, Joe. And we saw the Hoosiers take some pretty dramatic losses against Iowa and Ohio State, as we know. It really showed that the Hoosiers aren't 100% and have room to make some corrections, make some changes. So, Joe, what Big Ten teams, other than those 3, have proved themselves worthy to play in the Big Dance?
Well, the Big Ten is a loaded conference, arguably one of the best conferences in the entire country, probably only second to the ACC. In the most recent ESPN bracketology predicted 7 teams from the Big Ten making the Big Dance. That's only second to the ACC, who has 8. Starting our way backwards, moving our way up. So we know Iowa, Ohio State, Indiana pretty much lost. Purdue, they're on the bubble right now. They're projected to last 4 in. We'll see. Maybe they get that play-in game. Not quite sure, but that's really time will tell. For Illinois, that's a team that went 11-7 in conference play, and they were right around the same conference mark as the Michigan Wolverines, a ranked team that had an all-Big Ten player in Leah Brown. Finally, on the list is the Maryland Terrapins, probably one of the most feared teams in the entire nation. This is a team that took down 7 ranked opponents, with notably UConn and Iowa. They only lost to the Hoosiers by 7, and that was in Bloomington. This Maryland squad is loaded.
Maryland really came in by surprise with their 15-3 record. It was also interesting to see Michigan, Illinois have both an 11-7 record. Purdue might be working their way up. It would obviously be fun for the fans to see a Purdue Hoosier takedown, but we will see. And Joe, it is time to finish with one of our favorite segments. It's time to play a little buy or sell. Looking at the projected field and knowing that nothing is official until, save the date, Selection Sunday, are you buying or selling that Indiana will get that #1 seed?
I think they do. I'm buying on that 1 seed. They have the 3rd best record in all of college basketball, and that's behind 2 SEC teams, and that's South Carolina, who's undefeated, and then LSU, who kind of fell apart in the SEC tournament. I think the other #1 seeds are really up for grab. I think Iowa's making a very strong case, Stanford's making a strong case, and possibly Virginia Tech, and that's a really time will tell kind of moment right there.
Yeah, I'm buying too. I think Indiana had some really, really great wins against some of the best teams compared to some other Big Ten teams. They have fire under them. They're motivated. They're coming back strong and ready to take on the next couple of games. All right, buy or sell. Mackenzie Holmes takes home the Wooden Award.
Taking home the Wooden Award for Mackenzie Holmes, I have to sell on that.
Okay.
This award is Caitlin Clark's to lose, and she's shown that for really the entire month of February and now into March. What she did against the Hoosiers and Iowa City, that game winner, it goes down in the record books as just history. And then what she was able to do, back-to-back Big Ten champions in the tournament, that pretty much solidified her case to win National Player of the Year.
I totally agree with you. I would also sell. Caitlin Clark was actually the only Big Ten player to outscore Mackenzie Holmes in the Big Ten this year, which was super impressive. But I also want to kind of shine the light on Aaliyah Boston a little bit. South Carolina's player and also Wooden Award winner last year. I think she's going to give Mackenzie Holmes a run for her money. She led South Carolina to #1, 30-0 record. I think I'm going to sell because Mackenzie Holmes does have some strong competition. Obviously, we'd love to see Mackenzie Holmes win. She has my vote, but she's got some tough people to beat out this year.
Now, Josie, I do have a question. We've been talking about all these different teams, players. Obviously mentioning Boston on an undefeated team. She goes under the radar somehow. Who do you think in college basketball poses the biggest threat to this Indiana squad from not making the Final Four? So this could be a 2 or 3, maybe even a 4 seed. Who do you think?
I'm going to have to say Maryland again. We talked about them earlier. They came in really strong with a 15-3 record. I think they're going to give the Hoosiers a run for their money this year.
Personally, I think Virginia Tech has a chance. Elizabeth Kitley averaged 18.5 points per game. Georgia O'Moore as well. Both were all ACC first-team players for the Hokies.
All right, thank you so much for joining us this week. Make sure to tune in to stay up to date on everything Indiana Hoosiers by following Indiana on Big Ten Network. I'm Josie Broyles.
And I'm Joe Cronin, and we will see you next time on Indiana Basketball Weekly.